Thank you.
Yeah, of course, I agree with that. But concerning the technology, the problem is the companies are requested to go down. If they select a company, they go to the price of the lowest company for it to be approved. What I'm trying to say, it has to be in the system, but not to put conditions and conditions precedent, to approving a new technology, and you end up getting the other company to lose because of the price. The market is very much a price market in Egypt here, and as a result, I saw it deteriorating quite substantially from the time I was more involved to these days. Even international companies, they bring the lowest paid category of people, the equipment that are not properly maintained in order to meet the price competition in the market. One example that we had in one of our fields is that we had to go to tender a pumping system, and we went to the lowest price, and as a result, we kept losing 2 or 3 days production every month because we had to go for the lowest price. It's really detrimental to many operations in this country if we take it for granted it's a price market. It has to be a quality market again, and this will help. It's a win-win approach to be introduced. Thank you.
Please.
Thank you. I'd like to extend the discussion a little bit, if I may. I understand the focus on new technology and the cost implications of that. But I'd like to also bring it back to the here and now. We're experiencing issues that are related to a cost recovery factor in just going out for a rig. Something as simple as that, trying to find an appropriate rig. We found a rig, but we're being pushed into moving to a different scenario with a stacked rig, etc., something that is inappropriate for an exploration well that we're trying to drill. And it really revolves around cost again. The other rig, the day rate is lower, but at the end of the day, once we finish that well, it'll be more expensive because it'll be multiples more expensive in terms of days to complete. So I think we shouldn't lose sight of what's happening today. We're an onshore company, so I'm not talking about offshore, but the same principles apply as I mentioned earlier. They may be smaller, but when you get back to cost benefits, when you're looking at rates of return, the factors are still the same. The issues are still the same. They may be smaller numbers, but the facts and the principles are still there. And I think we shouldn't lose sight of trying to achieve an economic development both for the contractor and for the Egyptian government. We have the same focus, we have the same objectives, but I think we should be allowed to do more of decision making in terms of what we see as better for the project. And I think that's where the constraints come in. They tend to move the focus away from what we see as an economic development into one that's really focused on cost and cost recovery issues, which I think is a misnomer. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not pointing fingers at all. You've been all three regulatory bodies they're doing a great job in helping the companies. So please don't take it as I'm pointing fingers at anything.
Feel free.
It's too late for this. But this ship has passed.
This is not the forum because I received almost 100% of my requests were responded to favorably. So I'm not saying, I'm talking in general. So please don't take it personal at all.
I'm not defending, first of all. Second, I'm taking some examples, real example. Third, we didn't sacrifice any privilege if we ask for a tender. If there is any privilege or merits, we are agree with the contractor to use this technology, whatever it's rig or some sort of new techniques or any other issues. But as a regulatory or as a Ministry of Petroleum, we didn't sacrifice any specs, especially if it's technically. If we prove that this technique will save cost of money, has technical feasibility, I think the cases of Ganoub, EGPC, EGAZ is approved that this is the cases in my mind. If there is other cases, we can talk together and we can think in one solution which fit the two parties together.
I'd like to comment for this point. Really, our target is the same. Yani, between the three organizations, EGPC, EGAZ, Ganoub, and the Ministry of Petroleum, and all the operated companies. Yes, that's what.
Everybody is looking for
And
the
all
same
contractors. We are partners and the same target. We are trying to achieve the best technology to achieve our target in economical way. And this is why always the problem is if the contractor already started the work without notifying or get the necessary approval from the three organizations or one of them. But if he touched the process at the beginning or earlier, we always talk together because, yani, end of the day, we are technical people. Before to be representing the government, we are technical and we spent our time in the operating companies. So we know the value of the time and the decision and the right equipment in the right time and so on. So always we consult each other to design a best or the suitable scope of work and yani give the advice, for example, don't leave yourself only for the best price. So you can specify from the beginning, for example, the evaluation will be based on availability or based on technology or based on this and that. So yani good starting, good consultation between both parties at the beginning before bidding, that will help too much to achieve what we need together. Either technology, either best availability on the expense of the prices. So all of this could be happening, but most of the problem, if you start your work without notifying and the people say, no, this is not through the right procedure. But to follow the right procedure, we are full ready to help and to push in the right direction because what is the benefit to get the low prices with low technology and lose everything? So this is my comment. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm related to the cost recovery and the decision making and the urgency, and of course we are all aware of what the country is going through these days. And I think it is also very challenging to ask officials to give us, for example, extensions and the grant of certain rights that we see under the concession agreements. And whilst this is something that, given the position I'm in as representing an investment company and an oil and gas player, I find it very difficult to accept that sometimes I would send something and I would not, it would take some time to get the response that is urgently required. And we do lose opportunities. I mean, one of the examples is the rig market. The rig market has just shot through the roof. And at times where there were 3 and 4 rigs that are stacked in the Gulf of Suez, it was very difficult for us to get the approvals in time. And right now the rig market moved. Some of them left the Gulf of Suez. And the prices we're talking about a completely different pricing structure. And I'd like to go back to the comment of the production sharing agreement. And I'd like to just ask whether it is possible for in the near future to consider some other types of agreements, including the tax royalty agreements, including, the incentives. Countries that are exporters, like I think like Norway at one point in time were not drilling enough exploration wells, so they started giving incentives for exploration, some very serious tax incentives. Countries like Oman today are changing their agreement structure completely. Countries like, just amongst some, Indonesia, of course, today has changed it also substantially to suit the requirement. The objective of having agreements is to have a certain regulation that will enable us to achieve specific results that we can agree upon. I think tax royalty is something that we really should consider, because tax royalty reduces the traffic between the regulator and the operator. And this reduction in traffic will, I think, have a very positive response on the production in general. A lot of time is being wasted trying to get these approvals and pre-planning and going and coming. So if we really think about, if we want to think out of the box and we want to consider such solutions, this is one of the things that we need to discuss, and it needs to be tendered. And I think it's a very simple approach. It's off the shelf. And we could try 1 or 2 or 3 tenders under this agreement and see how it works for the betterment of everything. Thank you.
Well,
تعملوا لبعض.
talking about what is going on in other countries like Norway or Oman, as Engineer Tawfiq mentioned, I'd like to point out something which is really very important, and that the data selling. When we have the packages sent by, sold by the petroleum sector, it's really, I should say, it's very expensive. And in Norway, Netherlands, and also in Oman and other countries, this data is sold, almost not sold really, is offered without any money. These data are available for everybody who wants to get in the business, and this is free, really free. The second point that I would like to raise also is the cost recovery oil. Some of these countries are giving the chance to the operators to recover their costs first before they get their share. I mean, the country gets their share, or the profit oil is applied. They have either they give them the majority of the cost they have spent to be recovered by the operators, or even the whole amount of money, the expenses to be recovered. These are really 2 important points that has been very, very important in the business of those countries I'm talking about, especially Netherlands, in Portugal as well, in Mexico, and in many countries. The point is, in the Gulf of Suez, we have drilled maybe more than 2,000 wells. In the Western Desert, it's close to 1,000 wells. I mean, our basins are really exhausted, and we are not in the peak. We have already passed the peak of these basins. I don't think we will find another, Morgan or all these big discoveries, or Alamein, or all this. I think we are now looking for a very difficult fields to recover, to discover, I mean. So, we should really know that we are not looking for fields like before. And I'm not mentioning even, maybe the area which is still not reaching the peak is the deep water in the Mediterranean. But other than that, in other basins, but in other areas, these areas are really exhausted, and we should really look at our agreements now, taking in consideration these factors. Thank you.
I would like just to comment about the different ideas that was introduced now. As a matter of fact, financially speaking, all of them are the same to the country and to the investor. Why? Because you will put these conditions in your document and ask for bidding on such ideas. Definitely your bid will be different from the normal procedure that we follow. So actually, if you recover all your money first, or on installments, the same thing. The bottom line should be the same, because you make your economic model and calculate everything you want, and then you make your decision according to the bottom line figure. Some systems of these are acceptable to countries, and other countries cannot accept them. For example, the gold concession agreement, Sukari, I think the investor will recover his money first, then the government will share afterwards. I'm not sure, but I think this is the same. Some countries can accept that, others don't. In a country like Egypt, where they are looking to get a loan from IMF, for example, they cannot wait until you recover your money and pay and participate in the rest of that. So what is suitable for Egypt, especially nowadays, maybe is not suitable for other countries. But what I mean here is there is no loss, no gain if you change the system, because you take the conditions and you put your economic model according to the conditions set by the country, and your decision at the end of the day will be concluded on the basis of the bottom line figure that you are looking for. So, a fish difference. I mean, there is no idea in that. I wanted just to make this point. If you like to comment, go ahead.
No, I completely agree with you, Dr. Hamdi, and that each country had its own condition, really. I cannot compare Egypt with Portugal or with, say, Mexico, or the economies differ, really. And as Dr. Hamdi said, that we are looking to have our share as a cost recovery rather than waiting 3-4 years later on. This is one thing. The second point for data purchase, I think Adil can comment about this, because I can, to some extent, agree with Mr. Shawi that if the data should be offered, because our core business is to discover oil and gas, not to get money from the data itself. But
faster. Discover faster.
Exactly. But if there is some examples, if there is some regulation that lead EGBC, EGAS GANOOB to sell the data, I know that there is a committee for pricing for this data, either to purchase or just to review. But if there is anything you can add, Adil, I will be good for your comment.
Actually, the price of the package was mentioned from so many companies. But when we put the price for the package, we consider how recent the data included in this package, and whatever the price, this will save time and money whenever you awarded the concession. So it's effective on the time if you want to shoot seismic again. But the quality and how recent is the data, I think this is very effective whenever the company awarded the concession.
Not cost recovery, right?
No.
Can you think about this?
It can be.
Just think about it. Just think about it. If it can done, there is no problem for that. But if it cannot be done, fine.
But however, any company that is putting her bid can reduce the suggested signature bonus by the same amount of money, because both of them are not recoverable. I mean, if I have a problem in the price, and I was planning to, if it is $500,000, I was planning to pay $2 million, then I say in my offer $1.5 million. If you take the chance to lose the concession, if somebody else would put a better offer, you know. So it is the same thing. But anyway, my opinion is to facilitate the information, to get more people to be interested, and if you speed up the discovery by 1 day, you made 100 times as much as you make in selling the information.
Actually, I'll start from the last point here. I think by putting a higher price for these data packages, you are eliminating competition, because not most of the companies can pay $400,000 for a data package, and they have not started working yet. They will spend another 400 for the team to work on these to prepare the bid. Maybe the cost recovery will solve the issue for only the winner, but maybe another 3-4 companies couldn't compete for this, so you will not have the best terms in the bid. That's actually one point. Talking about cost recovery, we can talk it for maybe several days, because everybody, including the NOCs and IOCs, understand what are the problems of the cost recovery. And this has been discussed for maybe the last 10, 15 years, several times. I think Shell in 2005 came up with the idea of zero cost recovery. Why we don't? I think Tawfiq said that we need to think about maybe new models to eliminate this cost recovery. Cost recovery is not the problem of EGPC and EGAS and GNOB. It's the problem of the law itself, which is the public money. Because the cost recovery is coming from the public money, and that's why we need this tender and follow these processes. It's a law. It's outside of the concession agreement. Can we have something in the concession agreement to solve this conflict between the concession agreement and the law, or we'll need to think about something out of the box to eliminate the cost recovery at all, maybe with a different model? I think for the unconventional resources, we are just the theme of this session. I think we need to have a framework to be publicized. Maybe I think EGPC last year started to awareness campaign to have awareness of the unconventional resources, to hear the different feedbacks or different input from companies. And then after that, we didn't hear anything else about that. I think companies are ready to work, but we need to understand what's the framework, how we are going to explore for unconventional resources, what will be the returns, what will be the procedures, how we'll apply. I mean, there is a lot of work need to be done before we start to explore for framework. Another thing in the, we may talk about it in the morning, but do we still believe that the JV OPCO model is still valid for all the concession, or we need to think about another model for an OPCO to work in deep water, unconventional resources, or other, maybe JV can work in some of the conventional areas, Gulf of Suez or Western, maybe, I mean, maybe some not. But for unconventional resources, we need to think about also another model of OPCO to facilitate and expedite the exploration and the development, the procurement, which is the main, I think one of the main issues that's hindered the progress of development is the procurement. So we need to think about a new model for this. Thank you.
Thank you. About the cost recovery, it is not a law for the whole country. It's some invention in the oil sector itself. Because let me try to make the statement very easy. Here is the investor. He is investing his money, recovering the total cost without interest, making some sort of share agreement, and in lieu of leaving the interest rate on his money, utilizing the technology he invented and the hard work of his people, he gets profit oil or profit gas. That's simple. So you cannot eliminate the cost recovery because he has to recover his money. I mean, so any model should allow for investing and making a profit. Some relation between the investor, between investment money and making a profit at success. This is the point.
What I meant is the law is قانون المناقصات لأن هم sorry, they are considering it's a public money. That's why they need to follow.
Oh, you mean the
yes, the law of the bidding and the tenders. That's why they are considering this as a public law. They need to follow the procedure of the law.
This is the general law for using anything, you know.
Yeah.
المناقصات والمزايدات. In the petroleum sector, you apply the law, but with some modifications that are left only to the petroleum sector. Like, for example, if you have a single offer in the public law, you have to have at least 3 bidders. But in the oil sector, you have more facility to apply the same law, but with some modifications. Any more comments on that? Yes, please.
I may maybe add some other aspect. We were talking about intensifying exploration and incentives. I think maybe one measure that maybe should be focus on is to have as quick frequency of bidding rounds as possible. If the gap between bidding rounds become too large, that will certainly harm exploration. For sure, we have no problem understanding the last year challenges in that respect. But I think going forward, I think it will be advisable to maybe look into system where you can have a fast turnover of acreage. And I think those countries that have been successful in exploration have had this element built in. And I know from Norway, for instance, that they have concessions rounds every year. And there is a regular one, and then there is an additional special one. So this is one way of intensifying it. And going forward, that might be something to consider to make sure that we have the frequency and get acreage out for exploration. In particular, when you're talking about offshore and deep water, where there's a lot of acreage.
Thank you. Aywa.
If I may add a little aspect as well, if we can consider the secondary and tertiary recovery a sort of semi-exploration and got to be treated as well in a way which encouraging the, most of the operating companies or the contractors. Not calling for...
It is time to think about secondary and tertiary recovery, indeed.
Yes. Yeah, because especially when Dr. Shawi said that all of our basins have been exhausted, so it's about time to give some little encouragement to the contractors. We are not calling for bumbering them, but to tolerate rather than just accusing each other with inefficiency or something like that. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Any more comment? We move. Yes, please.
Okay, I think just one on the bid rounding. I think if we have a roadmap of these bid rounds, when it will be announced, how long it will be open, when it will be closed, how long it will take for ratification. I think that will help the company to plan for their resources and budget also. The budget cycle of each company has certain time limits. If we miss this opportunity, we may miss one of the bid rounds. So with this roadmap, I think companies can better plan for their participation in the bid round. I think maybe another comments from the challenges facing us is the role of EGBC. EGBC in the concession agreement is a regulator, is a partner, is a controller, and nowadays also it's a service provider by owning several companies to provide services. I think we need to separate between the different roles of EGBC to help the companies. Thank you.
You mean restructuring?
Restructuring of EGBC.
In addition to what you mentioned, it may be better to select a date that will be announced that you will have the bid round. Certain date, you know, because some companies, if they don't know the date in advance, they may apply for in other areas outside Egypt and make a commitment. But if you decide on a date each year or 2 dates, for example, that Egypt will have the bid round on this month and that month, for example, it may be better for the investors and better for Egypt.
I agree with you, Mr. Samir, for the roadmap of the bid round, but I would like just to highlight one point which highlighted by CPetrol, that, for example, the military permit, it's not in our hand. So not all the card in our hand to say that definitely we are going to issue the bid round, let's say, in March. We try to do our best with the military, and then they request many things to be done. But the final approval to issue the bid round is not the Ministry of Petroleum, to be honest. We prepare our bid round as a technical data package, as the model of agreement. We agree the time for issue the bid round, the time for closing the bid round and receiving the offers. And as Dr. Shawi said also, there is an effort to be done. I have to be honest that we would like to reduce the cycle time from issue the bid round till awarding the blocks. But the bottom line that to have a specific date, a firm date, it's not in our hand. But in principle, we agree that the bid round should be issued once a year because we have GANOP, we have EGAZ and EGBC. So it's not a matter of compete each other, because if we issue a bid round, for example, for 2 firms at the same time, let's say GANOP and EGBC. Some small company or middle-sized company, they will decide internally either to bid here or to bid here. And it's not on our side to compete GANOP with EGBC. But if we issue the bid round once a year and we reduce the cycle time, I think this will be good achievement from our side.
I'd like to comment on the unconventional resources. As you know, unconventional resources, something like shale gas, need, let's say, different, very expensive process and exploration effort and facilities to build, to produce. And the unconventional resources required unconventional as well terms and conditions. And this is something we are not, we should not forget this. And I just want to say that we have the Shale Gas Committee, which is formed within the oil and gas sector, and this will, we are right now, we are considering the best way to start up something, how to explore the shale gas within Egypt, what are the best terms and conditions to attract many other things, and we are considering the support of the available contractor here to support us in doing this, and hopefully we will come up with something very positive in future, inshallah. This is something I would like to comment in your point regarding the model of the JV. I believe we have the JV model, and we have some other models that are working right now, especially for the work with BB for the North Alex. There is no JV, but there is a committee forming from the 2 partners. So whenever the model is available or not available, is fit to run the business, we are very much open to discuss and see how much this can be utilized. Thank you.
I mean,
Just about the legal debate that was going on, I'm a lawyer from the Legal Procedure Control. My name is Marwan Achal. The point is now the concessions are issued usually in the shape of laws. So this concession is a contract that's legalized by the state through the parliament to be in the shape of law. So it's not actually, it's a private law that restricts the public law in terms of
right, yes, yes.
and preference. So there are a set of exemptions stated in the concession agreements that is usually a law shape, and this actually would give a better or a strong rule that cannot be circumvented and cannot be bent except if we go back to the Parliament, which is the issuer of the original law. So is there any future for amending these agreements to be more flexible with investors, to give them more ability to renegotiate the terms and conditions based on the changes in the market or the circumstances they may face during running the concessions? That's from one angle. The other angle, if it's a public domain and the cost recovery would be an issue, why wouldn't it be a different model? In name, it is a concession, but in practice, it's a PSA, production sharing agreement. Why don't we have it in a form that does not include the public domain, except limited to the resources itself and not limited to the money recovery? Thank you.
I would comment just on what you said. It is better for the investor to have a special law, because he will feel that he is secured. If the government change or the regime changes or whatever, you will still have a piece of paper which is respected. As I was mentioning to some of my colleagues, agreements that were signed and agreed upon during the Mr. Nasser time are still valid. We extended many contracts, many concession agreements. But going back to the Parliament, if you do so, you are securing your own people also, the people working for the oil ministry. Because you are dealing with millions and millions of dollars, it is much better not to take a decision on your own and be responsible for it. But you go back to the Parliament and explain whatever you have, then you change the law by the Parliament and the signing by the President. You see what I mean? So it is better for us to follow that system, for us as people, individuals, and for the investor. You see what I mean?
And I just want to comment on the tax royalty part. I think with I have one question. When Mr. Samir mentioned the zero cost recovery, I think you were referring to a tax royalty-like system where you do not have to go back to EGPC for
it's a different scenario. Yeah.
I think the economics are the same for EGPC and for the contractor. This is absolutely right. I think, and Mr. Minister, the point that you made. But the key with changing the mindset is reducing the downtime that is invested by everyone around this table in trying to get approvals. I think if we reduce this downtime, and I can at least speak to myself and to others around us, we could very easily increase our production by 25%, by 20 to 25%. If we would have done this a couple of months ago, we would have been in a much better situation than we are in today. And if we continue to delay this, the repercussions are going to be even more difficult for us to change. This is one point. I think I really urge you to consider this. Substantial downtime is being put there. The other issue is related to when we mentioned, I think when Shawki also mentioned other countries. Of course, every country has its own set of rules and has its own parameters. But it is very important for us to look around and to open a window and to see the guidance from what is going on. One of the points that was mentioned by Mr. Samir now related to EGPC and its role. This is the same issue that a country like Indonesia, and we're very familiar with them, have faced. Now, Indonesia moved away from the PSC model some years ago and had their EGPC was called Pertamina, and now they changed from Pertamina. They kept this as an operator. They put all the service companies in one part, and they did a new entity called the BP Migas to take on the EGPC role. Now, if we look at this, or if we look at Mexico, if we look at the incentives that are competing for the dollars that are being invested in the oil and gas in the areas around us, I mean, even small players like us are today looking around to see what other countries are offering, like Oman, like Yemen. Now, every penny you invest outside of Egypt is a dollar lost for the Egyptian investment. This is just to comment back on looking around and looking at the countries that are investing. Thank you.
No, there is no more comment, but Egypt is different, as I said, but we have to look to other countries. If there is something to be done and merge
And
the
study.
existing regime,
You study,
there is
then
no problem.
according to study, you make up
The point is that I don't need to look at, it's not a must to look at other countries, but what I'm saying is that look at our needs now. And in the 60s, 70s is different from now. There is no chances to find oil in the Western Desert or the Gulf of Suez as it was in the 60s or 70s. So I have to change and encourage more of companies.
Change is the name of the game.
Right.
You have to change.
Exactly.
all the time.
This
To
is
suit
without
yourself.
having to look at other countries. I can look at other countries to see what's best for me, but I need to know exactly what I
is best
need
for
here.
you. Best for you, not for
What
them.
is the best for us here?
So this is a proposal to probably form some committee
Before I forget also, if any company have an experience in shale gas, would like to receive a template for the model agreement, it will help everybody to just facilitate and reduce the time rather than invent a new one.
very good idea.
Really, I support the idea to be more flexible for the agreement to attract more investment. And to answer the question raised by Seapetrol about any amend for the published agreement, as we know, it will be difficult unless to go again to the parliament to get addendum. But we can, for some terms, for example, if it's a clear statement, we end this statement by saying unless special agreement by EGPC and the contractor. This will give us a room to get more flexibility without going back to the parliament in case some changes happens during execution of the agreement. This is one point. The second point, Engineer Hamid, about the secondary recovery and the tertiary. Really, there is a point I'm personally convinced about it, which is the duration for the cost recovery. If it's 4 or 5 years, at the end of the development lease, really we are suffering as a government for this, because at the end of the period of the development, which is 25 years in case of oil, the contractor start to stop investment.
5 years.
Exactly right, 5 years ahead. And this is a time for the secondary and the tertiary recovery, maybe in some fields. So we're supporting in the new agreements to get his money recovered even for the last year, because we are losing.
Maybe you add a statement saying
Yes.
that at the end of the concession, any money is left will be...
Exactly, because this is deferred production for years, for 4 years or 5 years without investment, unless...
When the people in the parliament say why, tell them...
Exactly right.
That case, and if you don't like to pay this money, extend the concession.
Yeah.
And this will give you good justification if you go to the parliament and say we would like to extend the concession.
And the time lost.
Otherwise,
And the time lost, really.
yes, you tell them we would like to extend the concession. Otherwise, we have to pay this money. I made this when I was extending the Summit many years ago.
Also, one real example that I urge all the company to submit their offer in enough time
Their ideas.
and their program, their estimated budget in order to maintain or to extend the license, especially for the development lease. So this will give us enough time, and I agree with Shell completely that this should be done in a proper time, not just wait until a few months or 1 year, and then we said it's difficult to extend the license. So we have to urge the company to submit their program, their budgets, and request for extending the license.
Yes, if I may, I think a lot of topics have been addressed regarding the improvement of the efficiency in our sector. In my shopping list I had with me, there is still maybe 3 points that we have not touched upon. One is regarding the access to the other contractors' facilities to improve the economy of any project. I think this is, of course, in the agreement, but needs maybe to be more specific in order to help the newcomers in a particular area to benefit from the other facilities. That's one thing. The second point I had in my list is not really for the benefit of the industry itself, but also for the country. I think there is no abandonment clause in our contract today, and this is really a real problem because now in Gulf of Suez we see platforms which are almost without activity and no plan for decommissioning. This is something that needs to be thought upfront, and there are clauses which would be made in order that we make some provisions from the production with cost recovery in due time to help this decommissioning. That's the second point. And the third one, which is probably a subject that interests everybody, is payment guarantee. Today, there is probably a need for a protective mechanism which will protect the producers against some very, very important delays of payment.
I think the first point with access to another contractor is mentioned in the agreement, but you need more flexibility. Can you elaborate for more flexibility? Because it's in our benefit also to use the existing facility, and if there is an allergy, so it's good for us rather than making standalone facility. But in your mind, what does it mean facility in this issue?
You know, when you start evaluating a project, the cost of transportation from a position to another, the use of next neighbor facilities is of course an option which is saving money, but you are dependent on the will of the second party, and this makes the life of the party who demands more difficult. We need probably to help in the rights here.
I agree with you. Also, that all the facility, all the asset is owned by EGPC. So the upper hand, the upper say is EGPC, not the contractor. Okay. Plus, also in your economics, you have to run sensitivity models if you're making standalone facility or tie with existing facility. But there is something to be done between the two parties. I agree with you.
Okay, we would like to move. Would like to move the coming point. You can make your comment under this. Unitization and the production allocation within agreements. تعلق بقى أقول تعليق.
I'll talk about the common facilities, as Mr. Mahfouz mentioned.
They includes common facilities.
It is.
Unitization.
But I'm saying that it is on the benefit of both partners, the contractor and the EGPC or EGAS, to make use of the facilities, especially if there is an outage in this facility. The second point mentioned regarding the abandoned clause, I believe that in the coming bid round you will see this clause exist. And as we talked outside before we start the session, we are you're welcome to send any different clauses for this abandoned procedures, so we can select the right one for our case. The last point, the third point you mentioned regarding the payment guarantee, I believe by having the right to market your profit share, you may not have, this issue will be resolved, and there's no receivable issue in this case. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody like to comment on unitization? Please.
Well, not unitization specifically, but if I could just go back to the abandonment for 1 second.
Okay.
About 13 years ago when I was here, the company I was with bought the upstream assets of Sueso, or Esso, and we renegotiated the PSC, because at that time the JV model was very different than any of the existing ones. So in the process of renegotiating the PSC, and Adel, you remember that, it took us about over a year to renegotiate that. One of the points we raised, was the abandonment of the EZ platform. And basically there was no mechanism there. We had proposed opening up an escrow account, right? An escrow account where both the EGPC and specifically the partner, the investor, would put X amount of dollars in each quarter into the account, so that when the time came to abandon the platform, there was money in there to remediate it and take it down. Because, and that was, it never worked out. We never could agree on that. The point is that right now, as far as I know, with the existing PSCs, all the investor has to do is hand the project over to the EGPC, and you walk away with no liability. All the liability is then shifted onto the shoulders of the government. So I really encourage in any of the new PSCs to have a provision in there for abandonment. It's very, very easily handled with an escrow account.
Thank you. I think we finished this, and now the time for our younger colleagues. Whoever would like to talk, please.
Sameh Khudir, legal advisor. Frankly speaking, I'm touching the point of the abandonment as well. Because I do believe, for my specialization as a legal advisor, this will need legislative procedures, because no law, no regulation is regulating this problem. And we are facing this problem usually when a company coming to participate in a bid round or like that, or selling their assets. So I do believe that will require an amendment to the law 66, or a very clear clause to be introduced to the concession agreements. This is one point. The other point, the issue of why the concession agreement is issued as a private law. Actually, it is issued by a private law. and the power of the law is given to the provisions of the concession. Therefore, there is a room for the flexibility that was introduced by Mr. Adel, actually, leaving the space for an agreement. So you leave the door open. But also another concept, which I remember since long time, we in Egypt have a jungle of legislations. The concept behind also, you have one private law. The foreign companies have the vision that this is the only law they should follow. Accordingly, there is a lot of exemptions from a lot of laws, for instance, tax, customs, especially customs. So this is the reason behind. In the meantime, I think the issue of the rule of EGPC need to be focused upon in the future, as long as we are talking about the future, because of a compliance issue, of a conflict of interest, of a state-owned entity. There is a lot of concepts here, cause some kind of contradiction, which needs to have more clarity. EGPC have the role of the regulatory body, of a partner, a controller. So these kind of things, I do believe, need to be re-regulated in a way, give more clear vision for the foreign companies. Also, one of the things which I do believe, we are suffering in Egypt from shortage of legal experienced people in oil and gas. And this is something for the future need to be focused on. I am one, started my practicing oil and gas activity on 1980. I was learned by my professor, yes, but the most of my knowledge I gained from EGPC, really. So this is which I do believe EGPC need to make a new training system, a new system to produce more qualified people in this respect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me comment on your, partly on your comment. Actually, I'm not talking specifically to you. I know you are a lawyer and in a very great office, and I know your boss very well. He was my boss too. So I'm just addressing our friends here. Actually, the concession agreement is a part is EGPC, and the second part is Shell or whatever company, the contractor. So when a problem arises between EGPC and the contractor, they go to arbitration. But when both EGPC and the contractor have a problem with the government, they go to the court, the Egyptian court, and accordingly the Egyptian laws, and the court will be handling the case in Arabic language and making the other languages, which is English or whatever, as a reference, but not legal. In the arbitration, it is different. They take the English version as the document. This is one point. The second point I would like to mention is that when the contractor leaves the place, automatically the responsibility goes on to the EGPC. And according to the Constitution, as I remember, every asset, like for example, if you have a platform, must be kept in a very good condition. And the EGPC will be responsible for that forever until they remove that one. I remember one time we discovered a gas well in Rashid. Till now, EGPC is responsible for that. It was between Phillips Petroleum and the EGPC. Buseli, yes. You remember that. And the EGPC is still responsible, but this was a dry hole, but with very minimum amount of gas. And they bought a piece of land around the well, paid money for the owner, because when they drilled the well, they were renting the place. And the EGPC is responsible for inspection forever, because the well is drilled. They put cement plug and this and that, but it is still the responsibility is on EGPC. So this is made to facilitate things for the contractors. If you drill a well here, then your company leaves, we will not tell you come back and look after the facility. The facility will go to EGPC. And according to the cost recovery scheme, any asset goes, the ownership goes to EGPC at the moment you recovered the total cost recovery on that asset. So all these things were done with very good lawyers like your boss way back in early 60s. Thank you very much. Anybody else would like to comment? تعالى كده انت.
I am Ihab Ali, Statoil Finance Manager. I have 3 points I need to focus on. The first point related to the gas price, gas sale price, and 2 points, the other 2 points related to the future of the agreements. Tawfiq Diab mentioned about the signature bonus as a commerciality.
Try to put the mic very close to your mouth, please.
Tawfiq Diab mentioned the signature bonus as a commerciality elements that we should took in the gas sale. My question to the Petroleum Ministry and the EGAS for the new model of the PSA, especially for the deep water operations. I will talk about the corporate tax or the production tax. Is it the same points valid like the government will pay on behalf of the partner from its share, or it will be both parties will be responsible for this corporate tax? Because this is one of the elements that should take when we have the study the commerciality of the gas sale price. So this is a question to you. The second 2 points, if we are talking about the future for the agreements, I would like to share that if we are talking about the future of the agreements, we should take into consideration the personality from the government side that they are executing the terms and conditions of the agreements. Mr. Salah Hafiz highlighted about the cost recovery, about the high technique, about the cost recovery, and other things. This is one of the things which we need to highlight, the personality themselves from EGAS and from EGPC and from Ganoob. Is or are they ready to comply with what is in the agreement as a terms and condition? Are they ready for the high technology of the deep water that they need to focus in or audit? It is so easy to seek the cost recovery from EGAS or from EGPC, but how we execute this cost recovery in our books, how we reflect these cost recovery as a numbers in our books and then return back as a money to the IUCs. As I said, it is so easy to seek the cost recovery in a paper, but how this will be reflected in the money back to the IUCs. The third point which I need to focus, Mr. Adil Saeed said about the advantages of the concession agreement. Yes, I agree with you. He mentioned a lot of advantages, custom exemption, tax exemption, but I need to focus on these exemptions. We do not need to talk about details in the cost recovery in the concession agreement, but we need to make it clear for the IUCs in order to implement. For example, sales tax. If we are talking about sales tax, we are talking about in the concession agreement, yes, the company is exempted from sales tax, but it is not exempted from the sales tax. It is exempted according to the list of the EGBC. So, the same like the custom duties and other things. So, I do not need to make details in the concession agreement, but just we need to make it clear for the IUCs in order to understand. Sometimes if we are talking about a huge investment in the deep water, but on the other hand, we can focus or we can face an admin problems that affect this investment by these items. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your comment. I will start by the second comment, really, which I fully disagree about it, even if it's true. I would like to listen from your Statoil, since you're representing Statoil, one real example that make a conflict for the people from EGAS, since EGAS is supervising the Statoil concessions, or some problems happen in the cost recovery regime. I'm not going to say examples, because all examples in my mind. So the people of EGAS, EGBC, it's our duty. I agree with you that we can improve the skills of the people, but not to judge that these people just know the cost recovery on paperwork. I disagree about this, but there is a room to improve the skills. And if you have a real example, I'm pleased to listen to this example. Because I have some example in my mind. This is concerning the second point, really. Concerning the taxes, you know that we are dealing with production sharing agreement. And part of the economics, when you submit a bid, it is in your mind, deeply in your mind, that the government pays the taxes. So it's not new for the operators to have his economics away from the taxes. This is the two comments in the 2 points you highlighted.
Thank you. Addition? Well, they're the same, بلاش.
More or less, it's something related to the cost recovery as well. I'm here talking about the procedures, because cost recovery, it's not that straightforward for people to say, yes, this is cost recovery and this is not. Because before even having this business, we have to agree together on a technical, on the technical value of this, of anything. For example, once we agree, it became applicable for cost recovery. The other point is when the group to review the invoices, this group is actually review the process, if they follow the right process or not. So it's not a matter of people understand or doing their work right or not, but to be honest, sometimes we have difficulties for especially the newcomers, that they are not aware of the process and procedures, and this might create some conflict. But in normal cases, for the existing contractor, there is no problem so far in cost recovery process. And if any, we would like to, we are welcome to discuss and resolve this. Thank you.
I think in between lines, I felt that he is asking for more training to your people, and you should welcome that and give some more training to your people to, if the, because continuous training make your people aware of the issues that come and how you personally can handle them or some of them. So upgrading the level of the people who are checking the invoices and the technical items and this and that, this will be a benefit for the Ministry of Petroleum before they become a benefit for the contractors. You agree?
To some extent, yes, I'm fully
you have to
agree,
say,
of
I
course.
agree or not agree.
Yes, but it's a two-side relationship.
No, I'm talking about training the people.
Training people is something is very
Essential.
is very much
Then you
considered
agree.
and very essential, and it's ongoing process. The point is we are talking about two sides, technical sides and commercial side. Normally, the conflict between or the language does not go through between the commercial people and technical people.
Yes,
and this is something, this is normal, and we are working on this. As long as the commercial people, they have somebody technical support with them, everything goes smooth with no problem. With no problem.
Theoretically speaking, are you answering or
Yes.
raising a problem?
No, it's not a problem.
Okay.
It's not a problem.
Okay. We are not supposed to raise any more questions. Our
No
group,
more questions.
because those young guys have the right now to talk.
Concerning the points you raised to make things clear in the model agreement, the model agreement is already published on our website, and we are open to clarify anything or any questions or answer anything. We are completely open to discuss it and clarify it. Okay?
Abu Hayib from Schlumberger. I'll talk about the third party, who we did not mention anything about them here at all. We've got the government and we've got the investor. I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the people, and I would ask very nicely and gently both parties to make every effort to make sure that the people are trained according to what's written in the concession agreement. And from the IOC side, I think a lot of the top layer of the management in the sector have been trained through their careers by investment from their own companies. And I hope that we see that from the international investors. I mean, seriously training the oil sector people so they can cope with the future challenges. You can agree or disagree, but I said I should talk on behalf of them.
Amr Hamsani from Shell. I have two questions and 2 points to comment on. First, the comments. Mustafa Al-Bahr, I agree that the training is a continuous process and it's very essential, but we should mention only, also a training, intensive training for commercial people, economists, and legal persons inside the governmental bodies. Because most of the time we are spending a lot of time just to reach
Geology
to...
is difficult.
Yeah. Okay. The second one is why we have 3 bodies making the same functions and responsibilities in EMP. why we have EGAS, EGPC, and Canopy? Why not we have 3 different bodies, one for upstream, one for midstream, and one for downstream? I believe this will save a lot of time and efforts for us, just to make it commingled in one entity for E&P, and in this case we may have one bid round fixed annually. And the second question is why we are not applying many types of agreement models? Why only one? I'm not talking about tax and royalty or PC, but I'm talking about a model for deep water, a model for unconventional, a model for conventional. Why not? I need, if these questions are that important, I need to hear some comments on it.
I will make it short for you. For having 3 entities, it was a decision at a certain point in time to have some sort of competition and to have more people know the type, the very difficult type of this business. And this is not a matter to economize. I mean, it's a theory. For the different models of the concession agreements, I think we agreed today that you will consider having different types of concession agreements, deep water, as you just mentioned. So I'm happy that you agreed before the study. Thank you.
I just want to have one question here for the panel. My name is Mohammed Al-Tumbari, so I'm working for Shell. Have you considered having concession agreements by stratigraphy, especially for unconventionals? Because by nature, unconventionals would lock an area for more than 30, 40 years, and you don't want to basically lock the deeper prospectivity or the shallower prospectivity from the industry. Have you thought about that? Thank you.
I will give a comment because we did that before. كنا بنعمل what is called seismic option. This is like إعدادي هندسة. فاكرها أنت الموضوع ده؟ In the difficult areas, we used to accept seismic option, and but you take the whole agreement. But you have the privilege after seismic option to leave or continue according to the agreement that you signed.
We actually, in the service agreements, we can accommodate this option. In the production sharing agreement, according to the law of Managem al-Mahajir, you cannot have two, you cannot restrict to a certain geologic layer. It has to be the whole column. And you cannot get 2 companies in the same concessions. Because otherwise, inevitably there will be conflict of interest. But it was looked into. But in the service agreement, they give you the production right for certain layer. And then you can either contract them to look for deeper or shallower, or get another company for this matter.
I think practically point of view, it's very difficult to design a concession agreement based on stratigraphy. Because as you know that if 2 geologists has worked together, they have 3 opinions, not only 2. So we cannot design a concession agreement based on stratigraphy, and maybe after some time, some studies or some evaluation report that this is not Miocene, we're still above Miocene, or this is not an Oligocene. But the concession agreement, let's agree about that. This is a framework. We can work in it. And all the time, there is a room to improve it. And I think I have to address some modification that we agree about it in the new bid round, which to some extent give some incentive and flexibility to the contractors.
Thank you. Any more questions? خدت سؤال.
You've mentioned
two halves, you mean?
Yes. There's the dispute resolution method that you've just mentioned as the arbitration, the preferred method in the concession agreements. But is there any, usually when you take a legal approach or a legal proceeding, it ends up with arbitration. Are there any amicable escalation processes that are envisaged to be placed in the agreements, in the new models, before going to the legal proceedings? Only amicable means of dispute resolution before we reach to that. And if there's a committee to be allocated in place, is this executive committee going to be able or eligible to take any decisions practically and resolve the problem? Or is it going to be only recommendationary to the Ministry of Petroleum and there it goes on the shelves again? Thank you.
I don't know. Would you like to comment? I think you don't. Nobody. So I comment. Nobody in life likes arbitration. If you go to arbitration, both parties are losers. So the best way is to compromise, sit down together and compromise.
Is there going to be any outcome to this compromise?
Yes.
Compromise?
If it is within the concession agreement legally, they can make a decision. But if it is something that would put one party in prison, they will never agree.
This is exactly what I'm saying. So could we develop an article to be a dispute resolution method before arbitration? Arbitration is a very advanced stage. Why do we reach the stage? Aren't there any amicable solutions to resolve the disputes before going to arbitration? And if there's a committee between the investor and the government, would that be executive or not? And would the decisions taken by this committee going to be eligible, or is it going to be empowered to take some decisions to be approved, or it's going to be only pens on paper?
From my experience, during my time, we had many problems, and all of them were solved. How they were solved? At that time, we had only EGPC. So EGPC would have to negotiate. Then they will go to the minister. The minister is convinced. And the minister usually has his own consultant. If he agrees, sign, finished, and tal mawdu. No, we never went to arbitration.
Could we legalize this in the concession agreements? Could you say this? This is one of the methods that we could take?
No, we cannot put it in the concession agreement, because in the concession agreement there are many lawyers, many people in the parliament and this and that. But we say if they have a difference and they don't like each other, they go to arbitration. If this is between EGPC and the contractor.
Yes.
If both EGPC and the contractor don't like the minister, they go to court. So we cannot say in the concession agreement about a new avenue, then the parliament member will say you are making your own path away from law.
But now
يعني كفاية كده. Sorry.
Just a small comment. To create a problem, it's very easy. But to solve the issue, you don't need the resolution. You need a good faith. If the two partners have a good faith, so the problem will be resolved. Thank you.
And this happened many times. As
Sure.
I remember. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for attending, and good luck.
Close. Everybody knows that we are about to close, very close to the closing date of our bid round. So please, for our partners, we encourage them to participate in this bid round to make it a successful one. And please fulfill all the required documents, so you don't put the committees in a problem or in a critical situation. And good luck for everybody, and thank you very much.